Dr. Roy C. Bell is a 1958 graduate of Howard University School of Dentistry. He later received his law degree in Atlanta. In the 1960s, Dr. Bell was a civil rights activist. He worked with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference under the leadership of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Dr. Ralph David Abernathy. For over 5 years, Dr. Bell tirelessly picketed and led protests at Atlanta's Grady Memorial Hospital. Grady was then segregated into 2 hospitals, one for white patients and one for black patients. In a 1965 landmark case, Bell versus the Fulton DeKalb Hospital Authority, Dr. Bell won his struggle, and Grady Hospital was mandated to desegregate.
Hello, I'm Dr. Roy C. Bell. I have gathered this knowledge that we will discuss concerning the etiologies of periodontal disease and diabetes from 25 years of study of anthroposophical medicine, or spiritual science, as it directly relates to my training in the specialty of dentistry. Statistics in the year 2005 from the American Heart Association estimated for the year 2005 that 80,700,000 people in the United States have one or more cardiovascular diseases. High blood pressure, 73 million. Acute heart attacks, 8,100,000. Strokes, 5,800,000. Statistics from the United States Department of Health and Human Services. Death among people with diabetes, United States, according to death certificate reports, diabetes contributed to a total of 224,092 deaths. Diabetes is likely to be unreported as a cause of death. Total prevalence of diabetes by race, ethnicity, among people aged 20 years or older, United States in 2005, non-Hispanic whites, 13.1 million. 8.7% of all non-Hispanic whites aged 20 years or older have diabetes. Non-Hispanic blacks, 3.2 million, or 13.3% of all non-Hispanics blacks aged 20 years or older have diabetes and are 1.8 times as likely to have diabetes as non-Hispanic whites of similar age. Hispanic Latino Americans are 1.7% times as likely to have diabetes as non-Hispanic whites. American Indians and Alaska Natives, according to the Indian Health Services, and 203 gives an estimate of those receiving care from the Indian Health Service of 118,000 patients. 15.1% American Indians and Alaska Natives aged 20 years or older with diabetes. Prevalence of diagnosed diabetes in people aged 20 years or younger, United States, in 2005, about 176,560 people aged 20 years or younger have diabetes. This represents 0.22% of all people in this age group. About 1 in every 400 to 600 children and adolescents has type 1 diabetes. Cost of diabetes in the U.S. and 202, total, direct and indirect, $132 billion. Direct medical costs, $92 billion. Indirect costs, $40 billion. Disability, work loss, premature mortality. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, in its report of 2005, can only offer palliative treatment after these diseases, or for these diseases. Arteriosclerosis, coronary heart disease, and diabetes have manifested themselves clinically. There is no mention of the cause of these diseases. In a lecture in the year 1934, Health and Nutrition, rsarchives.org, found at this site after a search. In lecture 1, Dr. Steiner says, if one gulps down too much protein, it doesn't go over into the body at all, but into fecal matter waste. Even so, the body does get something from it before it passes out. It lies there in the intestines and becomes poisonous and poisons the whole body. That's what can happen from too much animal protein. And from this poisoning comes then, very frequently, arteriosclerosis, so that many people get arteriosclerosis from stuffing themselves with too much protein. In an earlier lecture dated 13 January 1923, found on page 230 in a book entitled From Comets to Cocaine, Dr. Steiner states, if you read the Old Testament, you will find a variety of dietary rules. The essence of this lies in the fact that Jews should eat food that allows the greatest assimilation of sugar, since this people has difficulty absorbing it. Pork makes the assimilation of sugar extremely difficult. Pork aggravates diabetes, unusually in human beings. So prohibition of pork was calculated particularly to prevent diabetes. We can therefore say that a meat diet producing unused forces in the human being that works in the human being's body improperly to produce fecal waste should not be. Again, in another rendering of this lecture dated in a book entitled Nutrition and Stimulants by Dr. Steiner, on page 47 he states, above all, the eating of pork